Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Tanula Covers. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already.
If you like this video, make sure to leave a like, comment your favorite part.
So nearly free. Imagine reading this in pitch darkness. Imagine reading this in pitch darkness and you're all alone in your house. This would scare me so bad. This would scare me so bad. It's quite creepy. On a scale of 1 to 10, like, it's definitely disgusting. Like, when I read something, I don't want to be disgusted. That was disgusting. I wanted to scare me, not disgust me. But it was a good story. That was insanely creepy, I'm not gonna lie. I want to read disappearances. People vanish every day. Oh, the Slender Man. Guys, Slender Man will take your kids. That's why I don't want kids. Slender Man will take your kids. Okay, let's read the story of Antran, who I assume disappeared. The picture you're staring at. Okay, let's check the picture. What the hell is this? This looks like an android of sorts. The picture you're staring at was taken sometime in the 70s. It's the only image I have left of my son. Wait, is this gonna be sad? I don't want a sad story. And the artificial being known as Antran. Okay, yeah, I clocked that. Whom we had adopted into our family at the time. It was a warm summer back in the mid-70s. I was driving back home from my logging company after a long shift, but I had to make a stop at the local garbage tip to drop off some old desks my mother had given us. When I got there, something caught my eye as I bent down. Upon closer inspection, I was shocked to see what I originally thought was a doll, a plastic outer shell with metal limbs, and more shockingly, a humanoid face with cold, dark eyes. I'll be honest and say I was curious at the time. I was incredibly impressed with the workmanship of this thing, so I didn't think twice before placing it carefully. You didn't think twice. You see, white people, my son's interest was almost as intense as mine. We bonded over the course of a few days, opening it up, looking at its circuitry and seeing if anything had been misplaced or broken. Eventually, to our surprise, the being or android seemed to come to life. Crazy. Its limbs turned, its hands gripped, its eyes displayed a somewhat sentient tint. And after a few moments, it managed to stand on its own accord. Needless to say, we were scared, yet fascinated. I'm judging you. I'm judging you. I thought to myself about who could have created such a wonderful, remarkable piece of work. It wasn't until a few weeks later that I realized it wasn't a toy or a doll. It showed incredible signs of intelligence and thinking ability. It learned to do everyday things such as taking the trash out and playing with my son's toys. It even had a favorite, a small red car that it'd drive alongside the kitchen counters. It learned to mimic our ways, trying to eat from a fork despite having no digestive system and moving its mouth despite lacking the ability to speak. I knew this was something else, perhaps a military piece of hardware or a private project. I knew I should have handed it in, but when I watched my boy play with it so happily, his face lit up. I couldn't do it. He'd always been so lonely, and this thing was one of his only friends. What kind of father would I be to deny him the right to happiness? He would be a smart father, a caring father. We named him Antran. What does that even mean? Which was the print in capital letters written in small font across his back. Antran. Sounds like an anagram. Or maybe it stands for something. I don't know. A few months passed quickly and family life seemed to be improving. He was one of us. My lad's grades improved, his mood improved, everything was getting better. Until one evening in July. It's always one evening in July. I was sitting in my armchair with a beer watching television. My boy and Antran were knelt down on the rug, play fighting with one another as boys do. Suddenly my attention was drawn to a loud gasp. I looked down and saw my child gripping his arm. "What's wrong, Adam?" I asked. He rolled up his sleeve. On his skin was a large red mark covering his forearm. "Antran pinched me," he replied in a shaky voice. The mark was indeed red. It would soon bruise into a swollen purple lump. My fatherly instincts took over, and like a parent telling of a naughty child, I shouted at the android. Its cold metallic face for a moment seemed to show genuine sadness and sorrow, as though it was apologetic that it didn't know its own strength. Then its lips moved. Whether it was trying to muster up the sounds or the words to say sorry through language was merely copying what I was doing, I will never know. Later on in the evening, I apologized for the shouting, told it everything was okay, and thought nothing of it. A few weeks later, my child came into my room. It must have been early morning. My slumber was interrupted by a gentle creak on my bedroom door. he whispered. Yes, son, I replied. It keeps looking at me. What? What does? I asked him through tired eyes. Andrew, he keeps looking at me at the end of my bed. His voice trembled, fearful. I could tell something wasn't right. I noticed him rubbing his other arm immediately called him over. Pulling up his sleeve, my heart sank. More bruises, must have been 4 or 5, all the way up to his small arms. Take off your shirt, Adam, I said. I asked, trying to keep calm. I could feel a cocktail of emotions rising within me. Panic, fear, anger. He took it off. And as the waist pulled over his small head, my heart sunk further and my eyes welled up. Before me, my son stood. His small frame.
My small breast and my little frame and my sweet little girl voice.
I'm kidding. His small frame coated in bruises of different sizes and shades of browns and purples. That's insane. Immediately, I got up and stormed to Adam's room. Nothing. I shouted at the top of my lungs for the being, looking under the bed and out the closed bedroom window. Suddenly there was a loud knock from above us. Then, hard footsteps. It's in the loft, I whispered, my eyes to the heavens. As I paced down the corridor, I noticed that the walls on either side of me were coated in scratches all the way up to the now swinging piece of string that led to the small loft door. Where's the mother? That's what I want to know. Slowly, I pulled it down, telling my scared son to stay where he was. The ladder fell down and I climbed up. Taking hold of the torch we left on the side of the opening, I switched it on, only to find the small window we had in there smashed. It had escaped. Immediately, I considered calling the emergency services, but who was going to believe me? A sentient metallic being hurting my child? They take one look at the bruises and have locked me up for abuse. I had no choice but to keep quiet. That's true. They would suspect you. Weeks, then months passed. Every time we went outside, we noticed ever-increasing signs of Antron's presence, the familiar scratch marks alongside the breaking of my home. Also, plants had been disturbed, with patches of mud leading up to the windows. I feared for my son. I never let him out of my sight as I took him to and from school. What had caused the sudden hostility towards us? Had we done it wrong? Was it my shouting? I found myself speaking out loud in the evenings, apologizing to the walls, to an empty room in the hopes Antron would hear, that it would stop the taunting and endless stalking of my home, but my attempts were in vain. And if I had known what would come, I wouldn't have slept that night. This is gonna be sad. My rest was once again disturbed this time by a blood-curdling scream. My eyes darted open immediately, almost as a natural instinct. I rushed to my son's room. It was too late. The room had been turned upside down. Everything was on the floor, the bed sheets ripped and his windows smashed. I burst into tears, screaming at the top of my voice for my son back. I called the police, telling them he had been kidnapped. They asked if I'd seen the culprit, so I lied and said I hadn't, hoping the images of my son would be enough. Like they'd believe that this doll was sentient or harmful. For the next few days, I cried myself to sleep, sobbing like a child. Life wasn't worth living anymore. I wished I'd never found that thing. I betrayed my son's trust in me as a father to protect him. Now, I'd pay the price. It was a September dawn. I was sat in my armchair drinking when I heard the pantry door creak open. Adam? I called, rushing to the kitchen. Again, nothing. Except there on the table counter was Antron's favorite red toy car. Guys, I would low-key kill myself. I would low-key kill myself if I was responsible for my son's disappearance, especially if it was by accident and I did a loving act and it just turned out to just like I would low-key okay. I chose a story called Doppelgangers. What if we were slowly being invaded but no one realized? What if no one realized because the invaders were able to devour a person and then take on every aspect of their appearance and the ability to perfectly mimic their personality for other humans? What if this has been going on for years and they've been slowly integrating themselves into society, becoming the world leaders, the rich, the big names? What if they've been taking over the average people too? Your friends, your spouse, your family, your neighbors, the waitress who took your order yesterday? What if you're the last human left? Okay, not the conspiracy theory. It's not even scary. That's just boring. Boring. It's giving Hollywood Illuminati. I'm curious about this title. What does this even mean? This is a well-known troll pasta. It originated from the secret page on writer and illustrator Bagaleech's website, which can be found here. This is the best pasta. What? On the whole wiki, don't read the rest because the rest is not as creepy as this. Scientific studies proved this. Wow, this is true. Well, I assume that you don't reach to rest of the wiki because it is not as creepy as the story with all the blood. My scientific study proved it. Lol. James Leeward, professor of pastorology, Oxford. After reading this, I was scared, very, very scared, and I blooded lots. Oh, gosh, what the hell? Okay. This is the story of a day where there was all this blood. A man was walking around and blood started coming out of him everywhere. There was so much blood that it filled up and that's gross. He went to the store and there was just blood all over the place. People were slipping on it. If you're bleeding in a public place and I slip on your blood, I'm opening more holes where you're gonna be bleeding from because there's no way I'm slipping on your blood and touching it. That's disgusting. And then I have to go home and wash those clothes. He went to the store and there was just blood all over the place. People were slipping on it and they were all grossed out. He tried to go swimming. Why would you go swimming? And all of the sharks went nuts and bitten everybody. He got chased by all the vampires ever. One time the blood got a kid and a dog. At the end of the day, everyone decided they would send him to space so that he would stop getting blood everywhere. The scariest part is that the man was you. Or he was a lady if you're a lady and you forgot that this happened. So what, I'm on my period or something? Hey guys. We will stop here for today. I'm actually irritated. That was such... I thought I was gonna find something like genuinely funny and then I ended up finding that weird ass story. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope my reading wasn't too terrible. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like. Even if you didn't enjoy the video, please leave a like. Just be nice to me. Just leave a like once in your life. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Tell everyone you know about it. Tell them I was covering creepypasta today, and if they ask what creepypasta is, just tell them it's a new recipe of scary Italian spaghetti. I will see you next time. Be safe. Bye.